Welcome to Belief, Being, and Beyond with your host, Granddaughter Crow. Hi, everybody. Granddaughter Crow here with yet another episode of Belief, Being, and Beyond. You know, when I started this show a couple years ago, the title is very, very precious to me. And if you are a watcher, it's about what you believe in constitutes how you behave in the world, and then there is a beyond. Okay, well, I didn't know that there would be the perfect guest for Belief, Being, and Beyond. Today, we have Samantha Corfield. She is a spiritual counselor with a PhD in theology and world religions, which I love that because as crazy as all of these different beliefs are, we're more alike than we are different. We just call things differently. At least that's how I see it. She has guided thousands through their fears of death and dying. An ordained minister for more than 40 years and an initiated Mambo Usagwe, Samantha combines ancient wisdom with practical spirituality. She splits her time between New Orleans and, I love it, Albuquerque, New Mexico. I was born down on the res, you guys, in New Mexico. So shout out to that. I also wanted to mention that Samantha Corfield is a spiritual counselor, educator, and founder of Spellmaker. Spellmaker.com is a metaphysical business that she opened and founded and has had since 1995. Now, I'm not good at math all the time, but I'm pretty sure that's about, I don't know, 3 decades or more. So over the years, she has worked closely with hundreds of individuals navigating uncertainty, grief, spiritual doubt, fear of death, and life transitions. So without further ado, let's welcome Samantha Corfield to the show.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to see you both. I'm really, really excited.
Oh, we have been looking forward to this. A little background for the listeners is now I practice a lot of magic. It is a part of my life. And so if you could imagine, I'm standing outside in my backyard under my altar, and there is the full moon, and I'm about ready to have Ginny C. Bell on as a co-host, and I'm all pumped about it, and this is going to be good. So I asked for a blessing from the ancestors, and I said, "Hail to the ancestors. Ancestors, could you bring to us an author or more that we can showcase? Because if it wasn't for you, ancestors, we wouldn't be here." And then within a very short time, Samantha shows up and says, "I booked this show in the month of May in dedication and memory of my grandmother, who is Maddie Maude." Hail to Maddie Maude. We get to meet with you on this beautiful day, and it is just a spiritual connection. So, right off the bat, hail to the ancestors, hail to that which is after what we now see as life. So, Samantha, yeah, did all of a sudden your grandmother come and say, "Hey, here's a podcast, get on the show"? Like, how did that translate?
Well, no, not exactly, but I just want to take a second um, to say that I just wanted to relay the story about me after getting to know you, writing you and saying, "Hey, are you like praying for me or are you doing something? Because I'm just aglow with your energy." And you said
Exactly.
you had just honoring the ancestors of guests, and my grandmother showed up. The fact that I wasn't direct, I wasn't the direction, it wasn't directed directly at me. And the
Yeah.
fact that I kept feeling it and I was like, I know that's her. what is she doing? And so I was like, I'm going to write and ask her. And if she thinks I'm crazy, she'll just tell me, no, honey, you're crazy. Um,
Yeah. You're my kind
but
of
then you,
crazy. Yeah.
you had you had the answer. I was like, oh my goodness, because it was so powerful
Oh yeah.
on my end, not expecting it. Because I think, if somebody says they're going to do something and I open myself up to it, I will always feel it. But it was so unexpected because you hadn't said, "Hey, I'm doing this," or anything like that. And I knew 100% that it was you. I just didn't put all the pieces together until you explained it. And then I was like, oh, okay, makes sense then. I
Oh
just
yeah.
wanted that little story to get out there.
No, I think that that's perfect because it really does kind of showcase a little bit about how we all are connected in the spiritual community. And you and I had never met before, but yet there is this energy exchange beyond the email. And that's how this works, people. You are not alone. We are all here with you. We are all here with you. And I love it. So, this show is absolutely dedicated to your grandmother, Maddie Maude. Beautiful photo at the end, born July 4th, 1919, and passed May 16th, 1967, or
May 14th.
May 14th, 1967. And you guys, we are recording this on May 14th, 2026. Hail, hail your grandmother, because it seems as though she was a huge part of even just you writing the impact of your childhood. Could you give her a little shout out? Like, what did she bring to you?
Let's do that because um, I'm not sure she ever went to school. She was born in the mountains of Tennessee, and everything that you think about that, mountain life, mountain people, being poor, working, planting, being, everything you think about that, that's what her family was. So I'm not, I mean, she knew how to read, write, add, all those things, but I'm not entirely sure she went to school other than probably her mother teaching her. And then one of the wisest women I have ever known in my life. She was mystical and spiritual, and she would teach me little magic spells to do, and just how what herbs would did what, because they did a lot of foraging and herb gathering and a lot of herbal medicine, a lot of those things, because they probably were not going to the doctor very often. And so all that life that she enjoyed and um, learned from, I was the kid she passed it on to because I was the kid that listened.
Right.
The rest of the children, they did not want to hear any of that. They just
Mhm.
they loved grandma. They loved her. She was a beautiful, special person. But they thought when she started talking about that, it made people sort of uncomfortable, and they kind of backed away from it, and I went right for it. So basically I was the one that ended up learning what she had to teach, and that not just in a magical way too. Her way of treating people and seeing people and understanding people was just in it. To this day, it has certainly been a big part of who I turned out to be.
Wow.
um, and then she had this, I didn't know it then, but she had scientific information. I don't know from where, how she got it, but I'll just tell you this just really briefly.
Yes.
I was adopted, but I was adopted in my family, and so she was still my grandmother. But anyway, so it turns out one of my uncles was actually my father. So that long story. Anywho, he was my hands down favorite uncle. I had no idea he was my father, and I would just gravitate toward him, gravitate. Well, later on when I found out, I was like, Grandma, is that why? No, I just love Uncle Jeff so much. And she said, Blood feels blood. Okay. Cut to about 5 years ago, there's a big scientific article about how when you have the same blood as someone else, you will feel it and you will be drawn to it. I was like,
See,
okay, okay, Grandma. There was
see.
quite, uh-huh. Yeah, she just had that inherent wisdom.
Mhm.
So there we are. So God bless her. She was so figurative in my life, and um, I'm just so grateful that I was able to come through that bloodline and
Oh.
be here today.
And now you have your book out, Create Your Own Afterlife. Take control of life after death. Llewellyn Worldwide. It just dropped in April. You guys, everyone needs this book, even if I mean, everyone needs this book. Everyone needs this book. I'm going to turn it over to Jenny because otherwise I'll just keep talking about your grandmother.
Me too. Me too. Yeah. And I just got told not to do that, and there I am doing it. And I'm so sorry to the person who's probably listening, told me to quit rambling on, and now I'll stop.
You're not rambling on. Or maybe I am too, and I didn't get the memo from your guide or so anyway, Jenny, ground us.
Okay, well, I do want to say that we do call in the ancestors before we record. And so if they hijack the show, we really have no choice in the matter. So, grandmothers, both of my grandmothers are guides to me. Grandmothers are amazing. I can't even tell you how many readings I've done and people's grandmothers show up. I've not intentionally done readings and people's grandmothers show up, and I have to say,
Yeah.
did your grandma pass? Because she has a message for you. Awkward conversation always. But back to your
Right.
book, right?
Thank you.
I love it. I have always been at peace with death personally. But I
Hmm.
feel like that's pretty uncommon. Most people really do fear what's after, fear watching a loved one pass, fear a lot surrounding death, not just for themselves, but for other people. And so in this book, first of all, there is like everything is covered, but one of my favorite things that you cover are ghosts. So there is a
Yes.
whole chapter for people that like totally get the book because there's lots of really grounded and beautiful conversations on grief and lessons and journaling and affirmations and all these really cool things. But as like a paranormal like fan, there's this whole thing about connecting through ghostly beliefs and all of that. So I wanted to hear a little more about why you included that because you didn't have to, right? You chose to include that and why like
Yes.
that came into the book.
So the main reason is, and I kind so in the book, for one thing, trying to make it sort of a complete spiritual toolkit. So I wanted to try to cover as much as I could that was relatable to almost everyone, regardless race, religion, creed, doesn't matter. Um, so the ghosting part, I started thinking as I was outlining the book, I was like, we have every book in the world to tell us how to contact a ghost, how to find a ghost, how to talk to a ghost, how to recognize a ghost. We don't have any books to tell us how to be a ghost.
Thank
And so
you. Thank
I
you.
was, I was like, hey, maybe we should cover this because it's just so uplifting to me to think about that here we are and we inevitably we're going to die. We all pretty much know that. Um, but we can plan ahead of time. And if you have people in your life that are amenable to it, you can even speak to them about what would you like to hear from me after death? Like, I don't want to come and scare the bejesus out of you. So what would you like? Would you, like to hear a song on the radio? Would you like to try to verbally communicate? So whatever level it might be, from a cool breeze to sit on the corner of the bed and talk to me and everything in between, if you have people that are open to that, You could speak with them. If they're not particularly open, you think, well, they might not be open to that. I put in a lot about different religions' thoughts on ghosts.
Yes.
And so if you happen to know someone is Jewish, for instance, you can kind of reference that part and see that, yeah, maybe, maybe not. It kind of depends on, if they're Orthodox, not Orthodox, any of that. And just kind of picking that out of the air as an example. But anyway, I wanted the book to be this thing where you could go, oh, well, my he's become a Buddhist and I don't know if he wants to talk about ghosts. So let me go look and see what does Sam say about Buddhists and ghosts.
Yes.
Is he going to want me to contact him, or is he going to want me to be a thought, or see something that reminds him of me? What does he want? So to me, preparing to be a ghost before you leave, um, I think just puts us so ahead of the afterlife. And like, I have a family, I could ask them anything. They all think they know who I am. They know who I am. So if I ask them things about ghosts and whatever, they're like, they'll answer me. But not everyone has that luxury. So sometimes you have to kind of be a little detective and go kind of find out what they might want and extrapolate from that. What would you plan for them? Like if you know that they would be very horrified, then to be a thought, to be a breeze, to be something that reminds them of you, and that's your contact with them. And also, I wanted people by the book to be prepared that the other side of the coin. So here we are in the living world. Well, here they are in the living world. Here we are in the afterworld. Okay, so almost always you will hear people that have lost someone, to be like, I wish my grandmother was here. I wish my grandmother could understand, could help me, could advise me. Well, you're over there. Now you've already attuned yourself in your living life to hear this, because that will be a frequent request from the people that were closest to you and loved you. I wish my mother was here. I wish my father was here, my sister. I wish I could talk to them. And this gives you an opening to send them whatever kind of sign you think that, is acceptable for them. So it's kind of ghost training both ways. And that is exactly why I put it in the book, because I'm like, hey, nobody taught us how to do this. We have to, are we supposed to just go over there and figure out on our own? What if I do the wrong thing? What if I scare some? So I'm like, I'm just gonna like kind of keep my journal with what I think my sister will love, which might be different than what my husband would love. I even mentioned in the book that my mother-in-law she would just talk to me like we're talking now, because she's a great believer. She'd be just like, oh, come on in, have some tea. But so I think that it also gives us, and I think this is an interesting byproduct of this training yourself. It gives us such insight into the people we care about,
Oh,
because now we start thinking about something very intimate, very personal. This book has said, hey, go figure out, if you can, what your children might want to know from you, hear from you, see from you. Uh, and I think that is deepening that level of existence that we're living right now, and then preparing us for a much deeper connection as we move on. So that's how the ghost got in there, Jen.
I love it.
I absolutely love it. So you guys, I'm the type of person that has been walking around going, yeah, I'm going to haunt you. I'm going to haunt you. You can ask me. And now I'm supposed to be like, oh, how did you want me to contact?
By the way,
No,
by the way.
I absolutely love it, Samantha, because I do work with people one-on-one, and I have for a long, long time. And sometimes they're like, hey, summon my ancestor. And I'm like, well, it depends on what their belief system is.
Right.
Because I sometimes they will just float around and they don't know that I am being a conduit. They see me as a telephone or something. But sometimes
Sure.
they'll look at me and be like, I'm not talking to you, because of whatever. So I often make that delineation. And now you're actually helping us to understand that the different belief systems constitutes how you are, not only in this world, but beyond. And I love that too because my father um is he's passed, and his name was Reverend Jackson Yazzie when he walked the earth. And so he couldn't really associate with this weirdness that I do. But then when he came up on me, I was like, oh, I think it's actually on a recording because I'm like, what? And I was like, Dad, you can't do that so closely. So I love
Right.
that they have personalities and their belief system moves on because of consciousness. Is that what
Right.
we're saying? It's consciousness.
It's consciousness. And, in the beginning of starting this book, um, I, I was, some parts made me reticent because sometimes I feel like, ooh, maybe people aren't ready to learn that.
Sure.
But early on, I decided that that was not my call. My call was to write what I was guided to write. So I had to take a lot of my personal fears, and I'm one of those people that, oh, I don't want to upset anyone. Oh my God, if I upset someone, I'm just so freaked out. And so that was really holding me back because I was like, well, maybe it's too personal to talk about people's religions in the book. Maybe it's too personal to say, your grandma can be your ghost, or kind of thing. And I had to just kind of really shut that off and not so much worry about offending people and just treat it respectfully because that information needed to get out there. The more I have talked to people, the whole ghosting situation, it's funny, Jen, you'll really appreciate this. People have actually told me they were relieved that they could plan this ahead, that they could figure out what their friends and family would want for them. They're like, it was right in front of me, but you don't think about, well, that's what we have books for, right? If we knew everything, we wouldn't need them. Um, so they were so relieved that, oh my gosh, I can just plan how I'm going to be with those that I leave behind. And that was just such an interesting thing that people were just really pumped up about because the idea of planning your afterlife and all of that, is it's a unique idea, sort of, but we're all kind of already planning our afterlives in the sense that we say, I can't wait to see my son again. I can't wait to see my mother again or whomever. So we already have a lot of us in our heads that we're going to meet them again. And so what I tried to do in the book was, okay, that's perfect. That's your perfect jumping off point. But then what? What is the book telling you about what you can do next? And it's been interesting feedback because
Yeah.
I've had a lot of people say, this just makes sense. Why didn't we, why didn't I think of that? I said, because we're not taught to think that way. A lot of either religious upbringing or non-religious upbringing, whatever it is, childhood things will teach you certain things about what you're supposed to believe about the afterlife. Well, and trust me, I'm no one's religion at task here. Absolutely not. But I think sort of maybe we just never knew to carry it further.
Mm.
We had the idea that we're going to meet again. And somebody told me when they read one of the parts in the book about You're out of your body, and that fragile body is gone, and your energy still lives because, of course, it does. You can't create or destroy it, energy that is. And so there you are, right? And so some of the people, they really love the chapter about being something different,
Yes.
whether you were going to be an alien or you were going to be a guardian angel, you were going to be a god, whatever it was, because you never thought of it. They're like, oh, I'm like, yes, you're free. You're free from this constriction. It's over. Now you go be whatever you want to be. And so I thought that was so enlightening to me, because in that chapter where I talk about being whatever you want to be, um, I know it could sound a little fantastical, but really good feedback on the chapter, because people were just like, oh, oh, okay. They were just so excited that those were things that they could plan on doing. And, that was just so rewarding to me as well, because I really wanted people to understand
Yeah,
the wholeness that you will be in the afterlife.
absolutely. You guys were sitting down with Samantha Corfield and talking about create your own afterlife. Check it out, createyourownafterlife.com. And we have more to come. But I want to toss it back over to Jenny and be like, okay, so what else do we have in the book? Because I could ramble on, ramble. No, I'm not gonna. I didn't. Sorry, YouTube. I didn't plagiarize. Anyway, Jenny, take us back to the book. Ground
Jenny,
me.
Jenny,
Jenny, help
save us.
us. You're our only hope.
Okay, yes, as the grounded Taurus here, I'm here. But the chapter Samantha was just talking about for everybody is called Beyond Human. And I really liked that chapter too, because one of my favorite things to say is that if I'm really good in this life, the next life I get to come back as a well-loved house cat. Because to me, that's like heaven on earth because my cats are pampered. But
Mhm.
what's really cool, I think, about this book is it takes away a lot of the fears about death and dying. But at the other side of that is it's very empowering. It like gives the power back to the living to be like, there is something beyond, and I can plan for that. And that to me, I don't think I've ever seen anything like that because I think a lot of religions try to give you this, kind of peaceful feeling. This is what's going to happen when you die, but it's not at all empowering. It's always like, if you're good, this is what's going to happen.
Right, right.
Yes. So I love that. So for people, when you get the book, you have these really cool stories throughout of people that you've worked with and examples of how these things work. I personally really like the affirmations. So all the chapters often start with a quote, and some quotes are some of my favorites, like there's Emily Dickinson and Anne Rice, and then affirmations. Like this one is for the funeral rites in the afterlife. I honor the sacredness of remembrance. My farewell reflects my truth, my love, and the journey still unfolding. So, what I'm curious about is kind of like how you decided to organize. Like, how did you decide about the affirmations, about the different exercises? Because it's so rich. It's not like a boring read at all. Like it's very interactive and that's really cool, I think. So, kind of how did that organization happen?
So back in the day, when I sort of was thinking about this, I thought it could be a workbook. And in my head, I was like, well, we'll put the exercises and we'll put and we'll kind of make it a workbook. But then I realized we needed much more information than just like a simple workbook would do for us. We needed to know more. And so it really kind of started out being organized. Lucky me that was what I was guided to do in the first place was, kind of put it. And I have to tell you, all of my affirmations in there are guided. Every single one of them was guided. I asked, I was like, what will prepare our people for this chapter? What mindset could they be in to absorb and digest this information successfully? And as soon as I was asked, I'd be like, I was like, oh, then I'd be like, wow, that's really cool, man. So but I can't really take
I
the
love it.
credit.
I love that, Samantha. It does beg the question, how much do you think that spirit was involved in you writing this book?
Okay, so I'm not going to get into the whole story right now, and I'm not even sure I should tell it, but uh, the publishing of this book literally dropped into my lap. Okay. And right then and there, I was like, oh no, this is all okay. This is all guided because that just does not happen. It's hard to get a book published. Um, and um, and the whole thing just went like, you know, like gentle water, the whole process, which people are like, you're crazy, that didn't happen. I'm like, no, really, it did. Um, which is a big credit to Llewellyn as well, because my team is beyond reproach. Everyone is just amazing. Um, but to get the book, I mean, so my stories are in there, clearly. My beliefs are in there. What I think is going to happen is in there. But where I feel like spirit really came in was the putting it together and making it useful. That was the whole thing. I didn't want to write a book telling about my life experience with death or life or whatever, um, which I'm sure would be interesting to some people, but I wanted it to be useful. I always say I sound like a pageant queen when they say, "What do you hope? Why did you write this book?" And I'm like, "Because I wanted to help people." So yeah, they're like, "Oh, okay." I'm like, "No, seriously." Um, and when I came upon the idea of, wait a minute, every person could use this, every person. That's when I started feeling like just spirit flowing through me, and I
Yes.
would write for 2 or 3 hours and not stop, just
I
just
love
crazy.
I thank you so much for sharing that because that's one thing that I see is that this isn't just a book for people who are like, oh, I'm grieving, I'm mourning. This is actually a book that I see gives agency. This is a book that I see that opens up curiosity and that is very like empowering for us on this side as well as us on that side because now we have agency and so I'd love to see this book everywhere. I mean, you can buy this book wherever you get your books. Of course, we love to support our local metaphysical shops and bookstores and libraries, but it is available anywhere that you get your favorite books. But also, this is a really good book to leave out on a table because you never know. If Spirit led this book to be birthed, maybe you could help spread the word too. That's my call out for you. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it's so interesting you brought that up because one of my goals is to either raise funds, get a benefactor, I don't know, whatever you have to do, because my dream is that this book goes in hospice care. It goes in cancer centers, where people are waiting to get their radiation. I had cancer and I'm waiting to get my radiation every day for 6 weeks. And boring. But anyway, it's like I can't imagine what I would have done if I was sitting there and this book was just laying there
Right.
on the coffee table. I'd have been like, oh, okay, then let's get with this. So that's one of my things. As a matter of fact, my son bought 10 copies in the beginning just to you know, support his mom. And I saw him the other day. He's like,
Right.
Mom, I have an idea what to do with the extra books. So I was like, sure, whatever you want. He said, there's a hospice care right by my house. He said, I was just going to package them up and go drop them off there. And I was like, yes, please do that. So, that's one of my hopes is that, I thought, well, maybe I'll do a buy one and buy another one to be donated kind of thing. But, I put that out in the ether. So I kind of expect that the opportunity will manifest itself. I mean, I'll keep working at it, obviously. But I feel like that opportunity will manifest itself to get this book just
Absolutely.
in those places. Because even in the back of the book, there is, for people that are terminally ill and may have a shorter time, there is a shorter version in one of the indices of how you might use this when you have a shorter time, and or another indices about if you're a caregiver
Mhm.
and your person wants to do this, how to help them do that. Because unfortunately, some people are on their sacred journey more quickly than others, and could still benefit from it by doing sort of an abbreviated version of just getting the idea. Wait a minute, I can do these things there, and that's another thing.
100%. And Samantha, in the spirit of the ancestors and how your book was kind of like, let's make it a nice flow, and how I call in the ancestors and Jenny works with the ancestors, and then all of a sudden you come on the show. I just want to also say, yes, call to action, people. Let's make that happen in
Yes.
your own neighborhood. And it's more than just Samantha having to do this, right? Pick up two, drop one off. There's all types of places, whether it's a hospice or, all of that, as well as look at the show notes because, you can get the book. Maybe you can find a way to get in touch with Samantha if you are the person to help. So, yep, call to action, people. Absolutely. Let's
Yeah,
make that happen.
Yes.
yeah, you can find all my contact information on createyourownafterlife.com. So
That in the show notes below.
Mhm.
also, if you just type in Samantha Corfield on the webs, I will
Absolutely.
come up.
Absolutely. If you just Google her and she comes up and we'll make that happen. I love it.
Yeah,
I absolutely
I
love
couldn't I couldn't hide if I wanted to because it's just like you were saying. Yeah, we're going into our 31st year on Spellmaker, so
it. Yes.
yeah, people know me. They can find me.
Let's just talk a little bit because we could talk for ever on this. You guys pick up Create Your Own Afterlife by Samantha Corfield. It is amazing. It gives you agency here and beyond, and it helps you to stay in contact with all, like she said, science. Energy cannot be created nor destroyed, neither can our spirits and our consciousness. So you have createyourownafterlife.com,
Yes.
and then drum roll please, spellmaker.com.
Yes, indeed. It's been here forever. It's so funny because 1995, when I started that website, it was one little page. You couldn't take credit cards, and people kept telling me, no one is going to send you money. No
Right. We're
one from the
talking
internet's going to send you money. Yeah.
19th century or 1900s, people. This is way back in the
1900s.
1900s.
Oh my God. Ah, but right. And so it really grew from there. And um, everything about that website is pretty much something someone asked for.
Mm.
Because I had my one little page of spells that you could buy for $5 a spell. That's what it cost. It sat there for probably a year. Nobody bought anything. And then one day I got in the mail $80 in cash from a man in Germany. And that was my first sale. And from there, it went up. So, and almost everything there is something somebody said, hey, can you fill in the blank? I was like, sure, let's do that thing. And so it's been rewarding and difficult and beautiful and trying and all the things. It's been all the things. But, I think that's just the way of the world, that you're going to get all that good, bad. But I have to say, my people are beautiful. They are the reason I keep going on. I have had customers for 25, 30 years that I watch them get married, have kids. Now they have grandchildren, and I see them. It's amazing. It's just amazing. That whole thing of it, the people is really what made it, which I have to say, kind of the same with the book, because the people, I had someone, so I do different cleansings on the website with whatever you need. One of my customers brought up the book and said, hey, I always thought that I would never have a good afterlife because I've done bad things, and the people that I did them to have passed on. And I talk about in the book how to relieve yourself of that burden. Different things you can do. If someone's still here on earth, clearly you can do the social things. You can say, I'm sorry. You can say, you know, you don't have to forgive me, but please just listen to my apology. Whatever you can to kind of shake that negativity off of you. But once they're gone, it seems that you're defeated. You can't make it right again, but you can. And so that's one of the things I talk about is in the chapter about relieving guilt, living with guilt, because you kind of don't want to take all that with you if you can avoid it. And so she was buying a cleansing bath from Spellmaker, but she also had read the book, and she was like, this has allowed me to make a plan to make amends also here on earth, because one of the things I said, if they're gone, maybe you can donate to a charity in their name. Maybe you can do community service in their name, dedicate it to them, something they would want done. And she's, I'm doing that, and I'm also writing my plan for seeing them if they'll see me, because we have to remember free will always remains intact, people. So if they will see me, I have a plan to not make any excuses, not, just to say I was wrong, and I am so sorry for that. And that it's crazy how that has lifted a burden off of her, because she literally thought, because most of us, not most of us, a lot of us grew up in an apocalyptic religion. If you're good, you go to heaven. If you're bad, you go to hell. The Lord will come back one day and rise us, again. So that's basically an apocalyptic religion. So most of us have this thing, and she did, that she didn't really know if she believed in hell, but she believed in some retribution coming. And she had always, her whole life, thought, I'm not going to go to heaven. I'm not going to get to see my relatives because I did bad things. She was young when she did them. They were stupid and they were bad. And so that guilt just had carried her into a state of, when I die, I'm going to hell, or whatever belief you have of the not good thing. And so she did the bath, and then she had the book, and she was like, I keep writing down all the things, because she got this other idea from the book, to do things for them in the afterlife. Like, well, what can I do for them in the afterlife? I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do that, and try to make these amends. And it's like I told her, I said, and this is good for you because you're truly sorry. you truly regret what you did. That's in your heart. I said, so this plan is going to work beautifully for your afterlife because you're not just saying, "No, I'm sorry." Um, you know, it was really eating away at her, and the thought of just isn't that just so profound that she thought because of what she had done, she would never have the good afterlife experience that she had been taught she would have when she was a child. She had literally given that up and then picked up my little book, read that part, and was like, she said, it's like freedom. It's like freedom.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about with the agency. Agency not because agency because you can have that. And maybe sometimes you need to work for that. And maybe sometimes you need to make amends or, all of that restoration and everything. But agency, none the less. Ginny, do you want to? I don't even know if we need to ask the last question because her whole book is the last question. We always ask a last question. So
Well, let's ask it.
No, I want to ask it. We got to ask it
we
because
gotta ask it.
you're the ideal guest for the last question. It's
That's
like
what I'm saying.
we like wrote it for you. So, as you
Ooh.
know, right? It's belief being and beyond, and so we are always curious what our guests think lies beyond.
Ah, okay. Well, there's this little book. It'll help you plan what's beyond. Okay, so as a child, I was a very good Catholic girl and went to Catholic school. And I've always been fascinated by death, which is sort of another thing. But anyway, as a young Catholic girl, my goal was me, Jesus, and the cloud. I'm going to sit with Jesus on that cloud. And that was the whole of it. That was it. Didn't think beyond that clearly because I was like, what, 8? But I had that so specifically in my mind. Of course, obviously, you grow from there, and there was a long period of time in my life, especially so when I went to university. You start studying religions, you start going, huh? Well, what? Maybe. Oh, what about that? Oh, you just kind of your head just starts going. Wait a minute. What about this one? What about that one? And somewhere along the line there, things started to get more solidified for me that we are going to walk in a world and find our way in it.
Mhm,
This book was nowhere in my head, but I thought that at that time we didn't need to know.
mhm,
We just had to get there with the idea in our head that we would walk that world and
mhm,
figure it out as a young adult. Obviously, as I became more and more different things, it changed. But now I have to say, I thoroughly believe in my own work. I thoroughly believe that we will create this. Somebody asked me on another podcast that I believe that this was actually happening or was it a metaphor for something else? Which I thought was a really good question. Because sure, you could think it's a metaphor for whatever. And I was like, no, I believe in the realness of this, the solidity of it, that this is ours to
yeah,
claim. And that's what I want everybody to do is just claim it. Um, you know, I I've had so many grieving people, that said that it really helped them because, grief takes away all your hope. And for some people, it even took away their hope of an afterlife. Like I
sure.
guess they just, yeah. And so it brought back that hope of an afterlife. And this has helped me greatly to believe in everyone, in everyone's ability to do this, in everyone's ability to make this beautiful afterlife. And I do not think it's a metaphor. And I'll tell you, Jenny, I 100% believe that this is what can happen if you wanted to. And that's another thing. The book is not to be pushed on anyone. If you're perfectly happy with what you believe, you don't need this. But if you're kind of questioning, like maybe I want more, then you do need the book. But that's I'm just such a believer in the the robustness we can create for ourselves, the beauty, the
Yes.
joy, the learning, the learning. Oh my goodness. Yeah, so nope, 100% believe in it. That's where I'm at today.
I love it. So thank you so much, Samantha. You guys, we've been sitting
Thank
down
you.
talking with Samantha Corfield and her new release, Create Your Own Afterlife, Take Control of Life After Death. And it is so rich. It walks you through a lot of fun stuff, and absolutely go check out the website createyourownafterlife.com as well as spellmaker.com, because those were made for people that came before you, and she is here to serve. So basically, Samantha, you have won the pageant. We will crown you queen. You had all of the right answers, and we love you, love you, love you. You guys go pick up this book. Thank you so much, Samantha. And like,
Thank you.
subscribe, share. Absolutely. We love you guys, and we'll see you on the flippity flip.